What?
I said, you've got school in the morning.
I don't.
No, neither do I, but it's just something that's from the internet.
Oh, that's the second internet reference in the past hour that I have not gotten.
It's okay. The internet is wide
Clearly,
and vast.
well, I'm clearly just easing into my 30s and becoming disconnected from the world.
No, 30s are the new 20s.
I feel like only 30-year-olds say that.
I just made that up. No, no, we're in our prime. I fully believe that we're in our prime. Physically, no. Mentally, no.
Well, hey,
Hey,
we're here.
we are here and it is about to be a new year. This is the last podcast of 2021.
Yes, we made it through yet another year in 2020, in the 2020s, the roaring, raging 20s.
What a rager it has been so far. Hopefully 2022 is full of wild new things. We'll still be doing this, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. We're going to have a great 2022.
The pause.
I'm
I could see
a
her through
little
the screen.
scared.
I could see her through the screen, so I knew she was sincere, but it was like, yeah, sure.
Listen, I just am a little apprehensive. I saw a meme that was like, we're all going to be real quiet when we get into 2022. Nobody touch anything. Like, everybody stay quiet. Maybe we'll get through it.
Right. Keep your hands inside the ride at all times.
Just keep them in your pockets, really. Don't even take them out of your pockets.
We even
But
have hands in 2022, okay?
regardless, hopefully you will still be listening to this podcast, which is Haunted or Hoax. And I am Jennifer.
And I am Kristen. And today we are doing a little bit of a New Year's Eve special, kind of.
Kinda. It kinda.
Kinda. It has New Year's Eve mentioned in the name in one of the stories. So that's what we're going with. That's our connection. But go ahead, tell them where our story is setting.
Oh, I was gonna tell them about the podcast because we didn't do that yet.
Oh.
You want to go do
Oh,
that?
like tell them the
Yeah,
details of
the
the
deets.
podcast. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
If this is your first time listening, just to give you a little bit of a rundown of what we do, Kristen and I go and pick out a ghost story and then we kind of dig into it a little bit. So Kristen will go in and find the paranormal experiences or evidence, and then I go through and try to find just the straight history with sources.
With citations, notations.
Yes, MLM format complete.
Bibliography is there.
You can look at our bibliography in the show notes.
Yes, you can. And we are in the Windy City this week.
Yes, Chicago, covering the Drake Hotel. And if you haven't looked at it, or if you don't know what hotel we're talking about, if you're not familiar with the area, just go ahead and pull up your browser and Google that real quick and just take it in, because let me tell you, it is gorgeous.
It is. It's really gives me like a step back in time sort of feeling. So I would stay in it.
Oh, for sure.
Even after learning all I've learned, I would stay in it.
So tell me about it and I'll decide if I would still stay in it.
Okay. So I only have 3 sort of hauntings or like explanations of rumors that could be hauntings for the Drake Hotel.
Perfect.
Which is great. Short and sweet. 3 major people. I have like a little bit of things to like pinpoint, not just children randomly with no names or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I got all my information from Spirits by the Graveside podcast. I also listened to a little bit of a general history, not like a general history behind some of the ghost stories, they didn't really go into detail. But with the But What Do We Know podcast, I also went to klcranes.com for her blog because she stayed at the hotel, and then also the Magnificent Mile, Wikipedia, Chicago Mag, and Windy City Ghosts. So that was kind of like all my sources. All our sources are always in the show notes. I like to name them, and I know I didn't do it in the last episode, so I want to make sure that I actually named all of them at the top of this one. But there are three sort of main ghosts. The last one's a couple that kind of haunt the halls of the Drake Hotel. The first one we're going to talk about is the Lady in Red. And the Lady in Red is kind of what kicked us off with the Drake Hotel, because apparently back in the 1920s, the Drake Hotel held a huge New Year's Eve gala. Everybody was in attendance. Anyone who was anyone in Chicago came to this New Year's Eve gala. A woman in a bright red dress was also in attendance with her fiance or husband. It goes back and forth with a few rumors of who it actually was. A lover of some sort she was in attendance with.
Mm-hmm.
And the dress was described as the blood red dress.
Ooh, love that
Very
color on her.
foreboding. Every rumor or ghost story iteration I saw really concentrated on like how red her dress was. And like, was just that not a color people picked
Well, I
in the
was just
1920s?
wondering how many red dresses were worn in the 20s. But it's
I
like, I mean, it's not like Scarlett O'Hara like showing up
Right.
to a birthday party. Like it's the 20s. Everyone was scandalous at that point.
Yeah. I mean, that was like a big old.
The 20s were just a big 80s party without the cocaine, if we're being honest.
True. I guess that's a good way to put it. I'm like, were people like, I guess maybe sticking to
I love that
black?
thought that you just put into that.
I was like, huh, you know? So then I was thinking, like, what other drugs were they using? I guess
Heroin.
heroin. Oh, okay. You know a lot about the drugs throughout the decades.
I watch a lot of documentaries. Listen, all right, don't
All
turn
right.
this.
But I guess like they were wearing a lot of black and champagne, and I don't know. For some reason, anything like under the 60s for me is black and white. People lived in black and white. I don't know why.
Everything was in sepia tones.
Yes, exactly. But so the woman in the red dress, the very, very bright red dress, I just can't picture in my head because she's from the 1920s, attended this gala and found her husband cheating on her in a hotel room, is what I got from some sources. Other sources, like I guess she just came upon them in like a little darkened hallway. But she found her lover in the arms of another woman. And in response to this, she goes up to the 10th floor of the Drake Hotel. Some say that she went to the roof, but more consistent stories, a lot of other stories I saw say the 10th floor. And she jumped, committing suicide. She was so distraught that she took her own life. Some say that you can still see the woman in red on the 10th floor. She also haunts the elevator and the ballroom, where she was last seen. In Spirits by the Graveside, it's a podcast that is run by a Chicago area paranormal investigative team called Neil and Steve. They go through ranging topics: ghosts, interdimensional beings, aliens, cryptids, conspiracy theories, etc. They do a
Wide
lot.
range.
Yes, they do a lot. And in this particular podcast episode I listened to, they were interviewing Tony Sabelski, I think is what you say for his last name.
That sounded legit.
They said it a lot and I didn't retain it at all. So, but he is also a paranormal investigator in the Chicago area. He's been investigating for 20 years and running ghost tours for 11. Yeah, he was really interesting. He was very cool. He seemed very knowledgeable. in the interview, but not very what word am I trying to he's not
Dramatic.
he's not Zach Bagans. Which is what I really like. If you're legit, you're not acting like Zach Bagans for me. Gives you a little bit more credibility.
That's why we liked Kevin in St. Augustine.
Yes, loved Kevin. Shout out to him like once again. So just before I get into what he said about the Drake Hotel, their podcast was entertaining. They have an intro for their podcast, which is a heavy metal band, which is very interesting because the other podcast I listen to that's a kind of paranormal based or paranormal and true crime, but what do we know? They also had like a very like heavy rock intro. I was like, are we supposed to be metal? Like, are we supposed to have a metal intro?
I'm
Does
not
that make us
changing our intro.
I was just like,
And
does
if
that
we
mean that we're
do, we can take the little musical box and turn it into a heavy metal tune.
okay, perfect. We'll just put some guitars and drums behind the music box. I like our intro. I'm not saying that. I just thought it was pretty interesting that both of these podcasts that I listened to had like these very like rock and roll. It made me feel a little bit like a nerd. I was like, oh, here I am. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. I thought it was pretty funny that they both had similar hardcore intro music. I was like, are we not cool enough to rock with the ghosts?
No, we're not.
No? Okay.
No.
A definitive answer.
I like calm little plunks.
So most of this episode, they actually talked about another Chicago based haunted hotel, but Tony did go to the Drake and investigate. He doesn't really talk about a lot of his investigation in that interview. The reason why I started listening to this because I was finding such a hard time finding any evidence of the lady in red, like photographic or, EVPs, things like that online. And I saw this Facebook post while actually I was on Zoom with you. And I was like, yes, I found a picture, which
The
I'll show
excitement was
you.
real.
Oh my gosh, I was so relieved to find something that I can actually look at and study. So that got me listening to the episode. And he said that the picture that I'm about to show you, his friend took this picture while they were just doing a general like exploration tour of the hotel. They weren't even like setting up any equipment. They had just got there. They had just checked in. They were walking around. And his friend was taking pictures as they were walking through one of the ballrooms. None of the ballrooms were in use. They were open, but like nobody was in them. There was not events going on or anything. He said his friend was taking pictures and then suddenly she kind of like got this look on her face, like this dread look on her face, and she actually threw her phone at him, like in shock.
Okay.
And he was like, what's wrong with you? What's going on? And she said that while she was taking the picture that I'm about to show you, she actually saw the like form like start to like appear, form basically. She saw this apparition start to form as she was taking the picture, and it just freaked her out so much. And then when they went back through the camera, they saw what she saw. They do believe it is the lady in red, since she does tend to stick around the ballrooms. Let me see if I can share my screen real quick.
Let me see.
Share this. Okay, so
it's gonna freak me out.
I don't know. It's not the scariest apparition photos we've ever seen. It's not as jarring as some of the other ones I've gone through. But this, you see that?
That's not red.
It is not, but they say it's the form of a woman. Like you can see her dress kind of flowing out to the bottom here. To me, it just looks like a white mist. It doesn't really have a form of anything. I do think it's very interesting. I can't say if it's like a glare on her camera or if it's an actual apparition. There was no like before or after photos. You know how sometimes they can show you like what,
like here's before. A control.
Yeah, they didn't provide that on the Facebook post. But yeah, that is the picture of the white mist that they believe is the lady in red. That is the only picture I have found.
Oh, bummer.
Yes.
because she's
I,
not in red.
I know. She's not in her blood red dress. So how are we supposed to think that this is her? And he didn't really explain any other things that he might have seen or experienced at the Drake Hotel. They kind of jumped around to other Chicago hauntings, which is fine. I did find it interesting because at least he had a picture. Do you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Yeah.
I've been running into a lot of like, oh, I took a picture or I have a recording and then not like providing the actual evidence.
Mm-hmm.
So at least he had a picture. So that is the lady in red. We also have another lady that supposedly haunts the Drake Hotel, and that is the lady in black. There's
Lots
a
of
lady in
fashionable ladies here.
there's a lady in red and there's a lady in black. And the lady in black actually isn't a victim of fatal attraction or anything. She's actually supposedly a killer. The lady in black, you're probably going to have a better history than I am of the lady in black, but she is supposedly the killer of a 1944 woman who was staying at the hotel. Apparently, she was a socialite of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she was walking up to the room with her daughter. And when she opened the hotel room, apparently a woman in black with a flower in her hair was like waiting for them. Like, I guess just
Mm-hmm.
chilling in the room. Like, they'll come back eventually. And there was no motive
Mm-hmm.
given, but apparently she shot at the mother and the daughter. The daughter was able, I guess, to get away or avoid getting shot in some way. I didn't get a lot of details, but the mother died. And then the woman in black ran down the hallway and got away with it. She's never been caught. This case apparently is still unsolved, but people have seen a black shadow figure roaming the hallways. They get a, I guess, uneasy feeling in the room where it supposedly happened. I did not see a room number, so I'm not sure how people can confirm that they're actually in the room where this murder took place.
Mm-hmm.
There was like one suspect that I heard about that was supposedly a desk clerk that had like a connection to a gun that they supposedly thought was a murder weapon. People see the woman in black a lot, supposedly, according to Tony. He, again, doesn't have any sort of pictures that he claims are her. He doesn't say if he has any experiences with her exactly. But you know what? Tony, bless your soul. Thank you for the one picture you did provide. There was a person on reviews for the Drake Hotel who was there as early as 8 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, beware, this is a haunted hotel. I have experienced a few strange things here. And in the corner of my eye, I have seen the woman in black and a few other shadow figures. And then she said, it's all good. I'm used to ghosts as I'm a paranormal investigator. But she didn't leave any information. I would love for you to link your site for your paranormal investigating. If you say that you're a paranormal investigator, I'm
Let
going
me
to
see your
demand
credentials.
I'm going to demand a business card with all your information on it, because there's too many people going around saying they're hunting ghosts and then not producing anything from their ghost hunts is all I'm saying.
Are you turning into a
Um,
cynic?
I'm I'm holding in 2022, I'm holding ghost hunters accountable.
Kristen for president.
Give me your receipts. I'm the ghost auditor. Brooklyn G stayed at the Drake Hotel a month ago, and she said, a word of warning, this place is extremely haunted. Beware of the things happening around you and try to decide for yourself if it's real or not. She had a lot of things happen to her. She doesn't go into detail. And she said, I'm still wondering about it. She gave the Drake a 3 out of 5 for it. So
Because of the ghosts?
I guess.
Oh, well, that's not fair. Housekeeping can't clean up spirits.
Right. They can't change the sheets and the ghosts are gone, you
No,
know?
because it's not sheet ghosts.
Right. I mean, I that's what she said
It's not sheet
is
ghosts.
it's not she ghosts. I mean, no, I mean that's what she said was happening. So who knows? She didn't go into detail about what was happening, but maybe they are sheet ghosts. Maybe she came in and she was
I thought
like,
you
"Oh my
were
God."
I thought you were pulling a "that's what she said" joke.
No, I'm not Michael Scott. So,
Okay.
and then the last story of supposedly figures that can be behind the hauntings are the parents of Bobby Frank, who were long-term residents of the Drake Hotel after their son was killed to get away from the press that were supposedly like hounding them and staying at their front lawn and wouldn't leave them alone after Leopold and Loeb, the rich kid killers, murdered their son. I have heard of this case. I have not heard of the details of this case, so maybe you have more information on that. But the father, Jacob M. Franks, retired president of the Rockford Watch Company, died in this hotel. And then Flora, his wife, also died in this hotel, and they supposedly roam the hallways still grieving their son's death, which is kind of sad for me.
Sad.
That's very, very sad. People have stated that they feel like an overwhelming emotion in some of the halls. It feels very sad and overwhelming, like they want to cry. Just a very kind of emotionally taxing experience.
Mm-hmm.
So and they attribute that to Flora and Jacob Franks, which I was kind of wondering about when I read K.L. Crane's Drake Hotel blog entry. K.L. Crane's is actually a fiction writer who's from DC. She used to be in public relations, but now she's a freelance writer. She actually, in her bio, it's kind of funny because she listed the things that she used to do for work before she became a freelance writer.
Mm-hmm.
And she said she used to be a lifeguard, which is scary because she's a terrible swimmer, which same. I spent my summers in a little town with a small local water park, and I was a lifeguard when I should not have been.
And
Thank
then you almost
goodness.
drowned in the ocean.
I did. I'm not a good swimmer. Thank God the water at the water park was only like 3 feet deep because I mean, it was a good gig, but I was not saving anybody that summer. So I just thought that was kind of funny. I wonder how many lifeguards in the summer probably shouldn't be lifeguards.
We're not going to think about that. They're all
Thank God.
qualified.
They're all saving lives.
Mm-hmm.
But KL Cranes, yes, she's a writer, and I guess she was staying. She doesn't really go into why she was at the Drake Hotel. I guess she was on some sort of work trip. She doesn't really go into a lot of detail. Her writing is very, catchy, snappy, grabbed my attention. But she doesn't do a lot of details. She doesn't have a lot of things that specifically happened to her. She does say that while she was staying there, she had a lot of off feelings. She just felt very tense and very on edge. She felt like she couldn't relax. Once she got into the elevator, she didn't feel like she was alone. Whenever she got in the elevator, she didn't feel like she was the only one in there. Even if the elevator was empty, it always felt like she was riding along with somebody, which could be the lady in red going up to the 10th floor, maybe over and over again, like a residual kind of like loop haunting. But she also said that the whole time she was like checking in and going up the elevator and going into her room, she felt like she couldn't, it was very dark. Like there wasn't enough lights on. When she got into her room, her curtains were open. The windows were letting in the light. It was a sunny day. She turned all the lamps on, but it still felt like her room was very like dark and oppressive.
Mm-hmm.
So much so she didn't really stay in it very long. She didn't like take time to unpack or anything. She just went straight downstairs to the ballroom to meet with her coworkers, and her coworker also expressed like kind of feeling an anxiety sort of thing. And Kayla Cranes actually joked about like, don't you feel like, something's off about this hotel, like it's haunted or something? And her coworker was very offended by that and was like, don't say those things. Which I have friends like that who was like,
don't wish that on me, Ricky Bobby.
Right, exactly. They actually asked a hotel worker later, and the hotel worker did confirm that the Drake is haunted. And I guess that kind of freaked out her coworker, who was like, I don't want to stay here anymore. Which some people just don't want to stay in a haunted hotel, especially if it's a surprise haunted hotel. Like you check in and like,
this wasn't a planned vacation.
Right. They didn't go there for this. They went there, I don't know, for some sort of conference. She said she heard what sounded like when she was going down the hallways, like what sounded like buzzing, like swarms of bees were in the walls, which yikes. We've heard that before with Hinsdale House. Maybe
They're
bees are supernatural as well.
Bambies.
Bambies. But she said that it did sound like a very loud buzzing, like there was a lot of bees. So I don't know. Maybe that's like the energy. Like
Or bad electrical wiring.
that's true. The Drake is old. She didn't want to sleep with the lights off, and because she felt like there was eyes on her, and she didn't really want to open her closet. She said for some reason she really didn't want to open her closet, but she said she would stay there again. She said it was fun.
I
Kale
didn't feel
cranes.
comfortable sleeping in my bedroom because I felt like something was watching me. So I left the light on, and my closet terrified me because, who knows why? Probably the little girl from Amityville is hanging out in there. So I didn't
Ready
open
to put my
that.
finger in her bullet hole.
But the bed was super comfortable and the hotel staff was really nice. So
That's
9 out of 10.
well,
We'll stay again.
that's what people say. And there's like other reviews that I read that were mentioning hauntings. They were also like, well, but the staff was really nice and the bed was really comfortable. So, you
Oh,
know,
really?
yeah,
I
you
just pulled
like
that out of a hat.
I mean, you're nailing it. But she said, yeah, it was fun. Like it was an interesting experience, and she would stay there again, which I feel very connected to Kale Cranes. She and I have the same vibe. Like if I went to a haunted hotel and experienced some sort of uncomfortable feelings, I'd be like, yeah, okay, maybe I'll go back. Who knows? She wrote a book called The Travelers, which sounded interesting. Maybe I'll read it. LOL. Probably not.
We'll add that to your 2022 reading list.
Yes, I'm going to read more books in 2022, but not Amityville. Um, but that's pretty much all I have as far as experiences and the three kind of main topics that I found on the Drake Hotel. And I found that one picture. It was hard to kind of find solid evidence. There's no Ghost Adventures episode that I found,
I think,
unless I missed something.
wow.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to tell you about this history then. This is wild. We'll take a quick break.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
We will be back.
We'll be back. We're back.
We are back and refreshed, and I am ready to spell this out for you.
I am ready to listen with my mug of tea.
So, as I said, the Drake Hotel opened in 1920 on New Year's Eve
Mhm.
after John and Tracy Drake got the property from Potter Palmer in 1916. The hotel was financed by a few family friends and also the building's architects. With everything bundled together, land, construction, furnishing, all that good stuff, it cost about $10 million, which you're like,
Okay.
oh, that's not that bad. But in our money, it's $120 million.
Wow. A little bit more. Yeah. That's a pretty good chunk of change.
Pretty good chunk of change, but it makes sense because it's a very elaborate
Very
extra.
fancy hotel.
Yeah. So William Drake, who is the son of John Drake, and his wife Elizabeth lived at the hotel until the family lost the property during the Great Depression.
Mm.
Apparently, just as a little side story, during the 1930s and 40s, Frank the Enforcer Nitty,
Nito.
Nido,
Let's please call him Nito. He's dead now, right? Is he a gangster?
Nitto, he is. Yeah, well, did the Enforcer give it away?
Yeah, no.
He headed the Chicago outfit, which is not a fashion extension. It's, the Chicago mob.
Oh.
He used the hotel as his office using a
Oh,
couple of
okay.
suites. So that's where Capone kind of gets tied in.
Got you. That makes sense.
There's been some rumors that Capone was spotted there, but nobody really wanted to own up to it. Certainly the Drake Hotel did not want to own up to it.
Yeah.
But good old Frank, he used the upstairs suites or some of
Ew.
the suites as an office. Eventually Hilton International purchased the property in 1996 and started up a $45 million renovation that lasted from 98 until 2003. Your eyes got real big.
That's just a lot of money, and that's a long time to be renovating.
They did a lot. They changed everything. They updated the rooms, the furnitures, the furnishings, everything. They brought it
They
up to
got rid
date.
of they got rid of all of the furniture that could be tied to somebody who was murdered.
They got rid of the bed frames.
They Hilton-fied it.
Yes. But honestly, they still kept that charm. It reminded me a lot of the plaza, just
No,
very rich.
yeah, it's very decadent.
Hmm. Some of the interesting people that have visited the Drake include everyone from Winston Churchill, Eleanor Roosevelt, some presidents, because I guess we have a presidential theme going on here.
Yeah. We can't
President,
get right. We can't get away from them for some reason.
nope. President Hoover, Eisenhower, Ford, and Reagan all stopped
Wow.
by at the Drake. Prince Charles and Princess Diana, Elizabeth Taylor, Judy Garland, Hugh Hefner. The list is ridiculously long. And also, you can apparently see Marilyn Monroe and Joe DiMaggio's initials carved into the bar.
I did hear that, which I think is just so lovely. That's like part like that right there will make me want to go see it. Just
Super
to
cute, even though they had a really toxic, bad 1 year relationship.
Yeah, their
Aww.
relationship was awful. But I would just like to get it's just, it's one of those things. Like it's Marilyn Monroe. I want to go
Yeah,
see
you
something that
get
she
to,
touched.
yeah, like stand where she stood.
Hmm.
So now that's like the history. That's pretty much all that came with the hotel as far as like building blocks. Let's get into your legends
Hmm.
because I have some information for you.
Oh, thank goodness.
But not to burst your bubble, the woman in red does not look very bright.
No.
So, I love stories with no names or details because they always end up working out in the end.
Oh yeah. They're always 100% legit. It happened just like it said. We
Yeah,
never ever fall flat with little to no details.
right. No, this one is no different than any of the others. It has like no details, but the details that are there kind of explain themselves.
Mhm.
So like you said, the legend goes the woman attending the New Year's party in 1920 leaves the party to go to her room where she finds her husband, lover, person of interest with another woman. So she gets distraught, goes up the elevator to the 10th floor or the roof, which was it? Who knows? And she jumped.
Right.
There's no name.
Hmm.
Everybody agrees that it's a New Year's party, and everybody agrees that she was in a red dress and she jumped and committed suicide.
Right.
So this also happened during this hotel's huge New Year's Eve party.
Right.
Wouldn't you think that if something like that happened in Chicago at this prestigious hotel with all these prestigious people, there would be something written about it in the newspaper?
Yes, most likely, unless the Drake was trying to cover it up.
But what about the other murders that happened there that they didn't cover up?
Mm, true.
There's no articles about this happening anywhere. But I do have a really cool New Year's Eve picture from the opening night that I want to show you.
Okay.
So here's the New Year's Eve party.
Oh, pretty.
You see everybody there. It looks very The Shining to me.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson isn't down there. I already looked, so don't bother.
Oh, damn. And yeah, everybody was like, they all said, here, quick turn and look. And there's a lot of men in that room. God, there's a lot
There's
of
a
men in
lot of
that
men.
room.
Like she was not ready.
Which one? Oh,
The one
she was like, can we retake it, please?
I
Everybody
came here
just.
with my mom. All these men are way too old.
I know, I'm just saying, like, I'm just like looking at this picture. It's just,
There's a lot of tuxes.
there is, which like, makes sense for New Year's Eve. I just look at pictures like this and, obviously people are real in the 1920s, but it just doesn't feel like people are real. There's going to be a
No.
time, there's going to be a time like in like you know, the year 3000, where people are going to look at pictures from now and be like, wow, people were real back then. They're going to have the same thing, but it's
Yeah,
still,
but in the year 3000, they're all going to be robots. So
that's true. We're going to be in the Matrix by then. So,
we are. The other thing I wanted to point out about this picture is if you look, they're all really old.
yeah, you're right.
So,
There's a certain like age level.
mhm, because they're all really prestigious. Like the opening night, it was like the who's who was at
Mm.
that party. So, all of these people that are here, first off, it's like large majority men, but second off, the women that are here are like older. I just don't see them like
Busting out in a red dress. However, look at this girl in the far left corner standing up and turn. She's the only one that's turned away. She's wearing some sort of risque right here in the very, very left part of this picture. Right there.
Kristen, she's
That
like 50.
she has a little sequin number. It might have been a husband. She might have been older. Your husband can cheat on you at any time.
I mean, I guess that's true. I don't know. I just don't, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it.
And she's the only one turned away, so we can't see her face. Dun dun
Oh, the mystery.
dun. Listen, I'm just trying to fill out some holes here.
That's all I got on the lady in red. There's
Yeah.
there's no details, there's no name. So I can't check the dates because there's no name or, the date that it happened. There's like the closest thing I found was New Year's on 1920, but I guarantee you a lot of people died on New Year's in 1920. And I guarantee you there would have been news articles about a woman jumping from the Drake during their Christmas Eve party or Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve party.
Yeah, that's true. You would have found something.
So
Mm.
I'm going to say that probably didn't happen.
Good story though.
And your picture, she wasn't in red. So where did they get the red dress from?
I don't know. I mean, I guess just like, it's a very, bold, eye-catching color. Uh, People would remember a lady in red. So as the story snowballs, it's easiest to be like, oh yeah, we saw her leave the ballroom, this lady in red. Maybe her dress was stained red when she fell and landed in the street. That's a little
Maybe.
bit, I mean, that's a little bit morbid, but I'm just
It's a little bit
saying.
morbid, but don't worry. This story, this hotel gets much more morbid as we move on to the woman in black.
Right.
So I'm going to tell you about Miss Adele Williams. This article this article was posted by the Chicago Daily Tribune, January 21st, 1944.
Ooh, so like an actual legit old article.
This is a legit news article. Miss Adele Williams dies in St. Luke's Hospital after being shot the night before in her room at the Drake Hotel. She was the 58-year-old wife of Frank Starr Williams, an ambassador of the United States State Department, posted in Washington, D.C. She walked into her eighth.
I forgot we were at podcast for a second, so we just kind of looked at each other and wordlessly talked.
She walked into her 8th floor apartment at the hotel with her daughter, Mrs. Patricia Goodbody, and
Ooh,
almost you would like that.
I love that name. She's got a good body, Miss Goodbody.
I'm gonna leave that in there.
Okay, do it. I dare you.
I'm gonna try this sentence again.
Okay.
She walked into her 8th floor apartment at the hotel with her daughter, Mrs. Patricia Goodbody, and almost immediately encountered a woman who was, quote, gray-haired, about 50 years old, and wore a black Persian lamb coat and flowers or red trimming in her hair or hat. Again, that was the Chicago Daily Tribune. Investigators also referred to the murderess as, quote, a little cunning, a little savage, and probably a little mute.
Okay.
Because she uttered no word or cry as she opened fire upon her defenseless victim. Because I guess women can't be like heartless killers. Like we have to be mute to not make any noise.
I mean, we have to like, I don't know, when we kill people, we have to be like, this is exactly why I'm killing you.
Ah, let me pull this trigger.
That's so weird.
It was such a weird quote.
But
There
okay.
were there were 4 shots fired at such a close range that the flame from the weapon actually seared Adele's face and left hand. 2 witnesses heard the gunfire and saw the suspect flee. Quote, I opened the door as I heard the shots, says Chester P. Brewster,
Mm. I like
general
these
manager.
names.
I know you do. General manager of the Katy Tool Manufacturing Company of Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Mm.
As I did so, a woman brushed by me. Then a few seconds later, there was a scream, and a woman, whom I now know as Mrs. Goodbody, came out of apartment 836 screaming,
Oh,
do something, do something. My mother's been shot. End of that quote. An intensive investigation would drag on for months and months, with some weird happenings occurring, such as a missing room key showing up at the clerk desk after it had been reported missing, and the murder weapon, the gun, being found in an already searched staircase an entire week later. So that sounds like an inside job to me.
yeah. It sounds like she had some help for sure. If it was not somebody who was employed.
Yeah.
I in my stories, my stories are surrounding the woman in black. They said it seemed like the good body, Patricia, was the target, but it kind of seems like Adele was.
I mean, if it was at such close range that she got like burned by the
Singed?
gun,
Yeah.
like it wasn't just a panic.
Yeah.
No one, you were right, no one was ever prosecuted for the case, or for the crime, and it's still
Mhm.
an open investigation. So I have also a picture of Miss Adele, unless you've already seen a picture of her.
No, I have not. I tried to not look at any of the historical pictures because, oh, she looks nice.
She looks very put together.
Yes, she looks like a socialite for sure. Poor Adele. But you know what? I'm thinking now, my mind is turning. The gears are going, rusty
Mhm.
as they are. Um,
Er.
but doesn't this sound like maybe so it's a woman in her 50s
Mhm.
and Adele herself was in her 50s.
Mhm.
She was, I mean, it sounds like she was a target. Doesn't this sound like a crime of like maybe an affair gone wrong? Like he broke off the affair and then she went after the wife, maybe? That could be a theory. And then, hear me out, if that could be the case, that kind of born from that came the lady in red who found her husband in an affair. Like somehow like the theory of why Adele was killed kind of branched off into the Lady in Red story. I'm just trying to put the pieces together.
I feel like that might be a stretch.
Come on. It's so similar. It
I
kind of
thought
feels
you
very
were
obvious.
I thought you were going in the direction that I had already thought of, but you weren't. You veered.
Well, I'm just trying to see like if there could be a connection between like a figure, a ghostly figure in a red in a dress, like a woman. It could be one and the same. Do you know what I'm saying?
It could be. So I thought that maybe the woman that people are seeing, the lady in black, wasn't this woman in a black jacket. Maybe it is Adele.
That's what I was thinking too. It didn't make sense to me that the lady in black would be the killer.
Unless the lady in black worked at the hotel,
Yeah, but then she went, I bet she didn't die at the hotel.
but she committed this awful thing at the hotel. Maybe
Mm,
she's just
like
stuck there because,
reliving her
yeah.
crime.
Hmm.
That's true. And then I go back to, but maybe the other woman that people are seeing is Adele. Because, there's no evidence that she's actually in red. And nobody ever says that they see a woman in red. They just see another woman in a dress.
Hmm.
So maybe the other woman is not this New Year's Eve gala woman. Maybe she is also Adele. Maybe the killer and Adele are both haunting it.
It would have been super helpful.
If there had been name with
Or if you had have gotten like some sort of evidence.
I know. The one picture of the white mist. We just don't know who that is.
No, we don't. So let me carry on. That's all I
Okay.
have of Adele.
All right.
The last one is the worst one by far.
Mhm.
That is Bobby Franks and his parents. And I'm going to give you a little background on Bobby's murder just so you can kind of get the idea of it. I'll wait to show you the pictures.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
emotionally fragile.
I can show you real quick. So that's Bobby, and then the two guys below were his killers.
Those guys look like stupid idiots. I'm not on their side at all already. I vaguely know about this case. Like I said, I think I've heard it in a podcast or on a show, but I don't remember the details.
It is terrible. Like full on, it is terrible. And I got my information from Britannica. You
Mhm.
you remember that site from back in the day?
I do.
And also smithsonianmag.com. I liked the Smithsonian article a little bit more than the Britannica article, but
Okay.
I will give you both links.
We appreciate it. We're citing our sources.
So let me tell you about these jerks. Richard Loeb and Nathan Leopold were both from really wealthy families. One of their fathers was actually like the vice president of Sears,
Wow.
like at the time. Very wealthy Jewish families. So they also were very well established and they had gone to these universities. One of them was studying to be a lawyer. So essentially, they were just rich and bored with their lives. They were
Oh,
also
to be rich and
lovers.
bored. They were lovers?
They were lovers.
I
And
was sorry. I was just so stuck on the oh, to be rich and bored. And then you said that. I was like, what?
they were lovers. They had previously committed several like small acts, like petty theft, and then it escalated to arson. So they
Mm.
had just finished robbing one of their old fraternities, and they were like really pissed off because they only got away with like a couple of bucks. It said
Oh,
$80, but I feel like $80 in 1920 was like a good amount of money.
yeah. And oh my gosh, I'm sure you really needed that money anyway.
You're not wrong. But they only got away with like $80 and like a couple of pocket watches and a typewriter or something like that. And they were
A
really pissy about
typewriter.
it. Yeah. People
Please.
don't steal, they don't have a laptop to steal back then. They had to steal typewriters.
But I just want you to picture really quick mentally, take a trip in your mind to two guys running away with a fucking typewriter.
Shit's heavy.
I know. That's a,
Better
I
not
mean,
drop it on your foot.
exactly.
So they start like bickering a little bit, and then Richard actually comes up with the idea that like he wants to go kill someone
Mm,
just because he's bored and wants to see what it's like, and that he knows that they'll like never get caught because they're so smart or whatever.
right. They're so yeah, they're geniuses.
So Nathan, being the good supportive lover that he is like, yeah, okay,
Anything you want,
let's
baby.
do it. So they come up with this plan to commit this murder, not get caught for it, and then they're gonna like write a ransom note and get the money and then make their getaway.
Mm.
So after they kind of talk this out, they're driving around looking for their victim and they are just about to call it quits when they see Richard's cousin walk by, 14-year-old Bobby Franks.
It's his cousin.
Mhm, mhm.
Oh my gosh.
And so Richard rolls down the window and he's like, "Hey, Bobby, come here. I want to talk to you. You want to ride?" And Bobby's like, "Nah, man. I'm like right down the road from my house. I'm good." And Richard's like, "No, I want to talk to you about that tennis match that you did because I want to buy my brother a tennis racket." And Bobby's like, "Oh, yeah, because I did really great with that. So I'm going to go talk to you." Well, he gets in the car. And after he gets in the car, Nathan is driving. So Nathan starts driving around the block. And Richard's like, "Hey, do you mind if we take you around the block a couple of times?" And Bobby's like, "Yeah, that's fine." So Richard, after they start driving around, and this is happening on the south side of Chicago, Richard reaches under the seat, grabs a chisel, and starts hitting Bobby in the head with it.
Oh no.
Not once, not twice, but it was like 4 times. And there's blood everywhere. He was expecting Bobby to be knocked out with the first blow, but he wasn't. It actually took Richard stuffing a gag down his throat, and then he finally died.
Oh, that's so awful.
Terrible. 14-year-old boy.
And it's your cousin. It's somebody that you trust, like it's family.
No, these guys are just like psychos.
Mm.
So they half buried Bobby's body in a railway culvert, but not before stopping on the way for a snack of hot dogs and root beer.
Oh yeah, I'm
Which
sure
they
murder
decided,
makes you hungry.
well, yeah, and they decided to eat it in the car with Bobby's body underneath a blanket in the back seat.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
They are literally psychopaths. These are horrible people.
They are. They demanded $10,000 in ransom from Bobby's parents. Richard knew the family, so he knew that they had money. However, before they could get the ransom, a passerby discovered the body in the culvert.
Mm.
So when the police were called to find this body or to, look at this body, they also found a set of eyeglasses in the mud. Who did the eyeglasses belong to?
I don't know. Did one of them wear glasses?
They did. Nathan.
Oh.
So while they were burying the body or hiding the body, a set of eyeglasses fell out of Nathan's pants and into the mud. So they were able to tie the eyeglasses to Nathan. And they were like, hey, we found these eyeglasses. Do these look like yours? And they were both like, oh, yeah, no, we did that.
They just like owned up to it. They're just
They
like,
confessed to everything, like literally everything, down to the exact typewriter they used to write the ransom notes. Just as a fun quote, Nathan is quoted saying, "A thirst for knowledge is highly commendable, no matter what extreme pain or injury it may inflict upon others." And he told this to a newspaper reporter. Quote,
what the fuck ever, dude.
quote, "A 6-year-old boy is justified in pulling the wings from a fly if by doing so he learns that without wings, the fly is helpless." No, no.
No.
The boy is not justified. And if you see a child pulling wings off of a fly, please stop him from doing it and find him a therapist.
Yeah, and explain to him that that's not cool. Do you remember, like, did you go to summer camp?
Mm-mm.
I went to YMCA day camp, and the amount of boys that would trap like bees, not even hornets, just like, bees, and pull off their stingers and then watch them die was horrifying. It was awful. I don't know what it is, but it was like a thing. And it's gross and it's horrible and it's callous and it's
You went to summer camp with serial killers.
I mean it would be interesting to look them up now and see where they are in life.
So the prosecutor in this was like, I'm gonna be so well known, and this is absolutely gonna be an open and shut case, and they're both gonna hang, and everyone's gonna love me. However, he did
No.
not get that. The judge, after a 33-day trial, finally sentenced them to life imprisonment and 99 years for kidnapping instead of hanging. And they were sent to Northern Illinois Penitentiary. To end the story of this murder, in January of 1936, Loeb was, they used the term razor slashed. I think they just mean shanked.
Oh, yeah.
But in 1936, he was razor slashed and killed by a fellow inmate toward whom Loeb allegedly had made sadistic homosexual advances.
He just hit on him, or did like he's
Well, he's a psycho, so I'm sure it's not as subtle like, I'm going to hit on you. Hey, you're cute.
that was a nice wank though, by the way.
I practice.
No, I mean at least they they got life terms. I thought you were going to say that they got off or
I'm not
something.
done.
No. Oh, God.
Nathan was paroled in 1958.
What?
hmm And he worked as a hospital technician in Puerto Rico, where he married a widow in 1961. He died of a heart attack 10 years later. And he also wrote the book Life Plus 99 Years.
We don't want to read your stinking book. But also,
How did he get paroled? Like, he literally said, I just killed someone for the shit of it.
right. And how did he get paroled and then go and work as a hospital technician around like people who need medical help and are like vulnerable?
Maybe he
That
explains
blows
that
my
in the book.
mind. We're never reading that book. It's on the forbidden, haunted, or hoax read list.
They have a blacklist for books.
Yes.
So I give you this backstory just so you can know the Frank's kind of
Grief.
position, because it was horrible.
Awful.
They did have 2 other kids, Josephine and Jack. Jack died when he was 30 in 1938. And Josephine lived to be 101.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
a long time.
She died in 2007, from
Wow.
1906 to 2007. Isn't that crazy?
She saw a lot.
She saw a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So after all of this happened, the parents, or the Franks, moved into the Drake to kind of get away from everything. So in 1928, 4 years after Bobby's murder, the Chicago Daily wrote the following article about Jacob Franks. Quote, despite the fact that the Franks family had moved from a mansion-like home on the south side to the hotel to get away from the tragic surroundings of their son's death, the father never was able to recover from his grief, and today, surrounded by his wife and 2 other children, Jack and Josephine, he gave up the struggle. Physicians declared he died of a heart disease, and his friends say he died of a broken heart.
Oh, that's so sad.
Mm-hmm.
Just imagine. I wonder, just like these are your nephews too.
Mm-hmm.
That the whole like family thing, like even if it was a stranger, it would be horrific and tragic. But just like the added element of like,
oh, well, no, I don't know if it was like first cousin or like distant cousin.
But still, like they're supposed to be family.
No, yeah, like family members.
And like they know each other enough to where like they know the ins and outs of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
He knew about Bobby's tennis match. So it's safe to say that they at least like saw each other on a regular basis. So it's like these kids that you think are like, just growing up along with your son.
No, it's sickening.
Yeah.
So then in 1937, 13 years after the death of her son, Flora also passed away in her apartment at the Drake. And I have a clipping of the newspaper as well, saying Mrs. Flora Gresham Lure, who is 60, and this is June 16th, mother of Bobby Franks, the boy victim in 1924 of the Thrill Slayers Richard Loeb and Nathan Leopold, died last night in her apartment at the Drake Hotel. She had been ill a year. Her first husband, Jacob Franks, father of Bobby, died several years after the boy's murder. Loeb and Leopold were sentenced to life and 99-year prison terms after conviction of the Franks kidnap slaying. Loeb was stabbed fatally last year in prison by a fellow convict. And that's the article. So
sad.
That actually confirms that the Franks did in fact die at the Drake in their apartment, and they were obviously devastated.
Yeah, so it would make sense that people would feel like in sort of like a darkness or like a very emotionally taxing sort of feeling when they're in the hotel, and maybe even in the rooms that used to be their apartments. So I didn't see a lot of like apparition experiences with that are credited to Flora and Jacob, but you never know.
Yeah.
You literally never know because people don't ever show you. But I mean, to have all that sort of emotion and all that grief, I would think would leave an imprint for sure.
For that long. Like she was there until 1937. So at least 10 years.
Yeah. Mm. What a
Just
sad
terrible.
story.
Oh, it was terrible. That's when you messaged me and you're like, I'm ready. That's the one that I was going through. I was like, I have to finish this because it's like, it's
Yeah,
awful. But the Smithsonian goes into it a little bit more. If you're into like true crime, they break down everything from the guys like figuring out that they wanted to just kill someone for kicks down to the trial. It's all very interesting, but I'll also link you the sources.
definitely.
So that's what I got for the Drake. I feel like this is the first time that I've had more like validation and you've had less evidence. Like I feel like we've gone backwards.
Yeah, we flipped a little bit.
Like here, I have these people. This awful thing happened here multiple times. There should be ghosts there.
Yeah.
Where are the ghosts?
Right. Where are your evidence? Why didn't hasn't Zach Bagans gone here yet? Is my question.
You tweet them, ask them.
I know.
So I'm gonna say haunted.
Yeah, I think that so breaking it down a little bit more, it's lady in red. Don't think that there's a lady in red there.
Mm-mm.
I think that it might be Adele. She might not be in a red dress. She was shot.
Mhm.
That's a very bloody way to die. Maybe that's where that whole thing comes in. And then the lady in black might be her killer. That was a worker, but the actual story of the New Year's Eve suicide, I don't think that happened. I do think that this is haunted by very sad circumstances.
Yeah, no, terrible things have happened in this hotel.
And like hearing all of it, it does make more sense with KL Cranes, even though she didn't see anything, her whole like feeling it was very dark. Like it could never feel like there was enough light. And then
Mm-hmm.
never really feeling alone, even though she was alone, kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I even though there's not a lot of evidence, I feel like your research kind of matches so well with the ghost stories that there is some sort of credibility there. And I think that it's haunted.
I would still go get tea there. If we
Oh,
go to
yeah.
Chicago, we're going to get tea.
Yes. I mean, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And they have like actual formal like tea service
Yeah,
at the
I saw
Palm.
that.
So we're going to put Chicago on our visit list and we're going to go get tea at the Palm in the Drake.
Yes.
So yeah, that was interesting.
It was interesting.
So next week we are taking a trip to Kristen's
Home
lovely home
state.
state, Maryland.
Yeah, not very far from where I actually choose stomping grounds, that was like kind of where I hung around. Not in the place where we're going, but kind of close. So it's exciting.
Oh, I didn't know that it was close.
Yeah.
I guess Maryland's not very big.
Maryland is not very big. It is not very big, and I'm kind of convinced that I'm pretty much related to half the state. So
Cute. Your
um
husband's from Maryland.
yeah, I haven't looked into our ancestry very
Oh, God.
closely. I'm kind of afraid. So I'm sure we're not related. It's fine. But yeah, so that'll be fun.
Yeah. Do you have a sage moment today?
I do. So it's gonna be Zach and I get this like a little snack subscription box.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to mention the name because I want them to sponsor us one day, and I don't want to give them free advertising. But they had this little trivia thing in the booklet I came in,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just gonna do one of the New Year's Eve questions because it was a
Okay.
holiday box. And we'll see if you can get it.
Oh, boy.
On New Year's Eve, residents of Denmark must blank for good luck. It's multiple choice, so it's gonna be
Okay. Good.
A, jump off a chair, B, eat a clove of garlic, C, take 17 steps backwards, or D, see a child smile.
Denmark seems like a happy place, so I'm going to say D.
That's a good guess. I said C, but the actual answer is A, jump off a chair.
Oh,
It is supposedly because you're supposed to like leap into the new year and express excitement and hope for better days ahead. And if you're not a jumper, that's not a good thing, because apparently if you don't jump off a chair, you're supposed to have bad luck for the entire year.
So people do that like we eat collards here.
Yes. But I don't eat collards.
Maybe that's why you
Maybe
had such financial trouble in your 20s.
maybe that's why my life is a mess. I need to get some before the new year comes.
You can come over New Year's. I'll cook you some.
Okay, perfect. But yeah, so that was my sage moment. I just thought those were kind of funny questions, and that one particularly. Love Denmark. It's the happiest place on earth. So I thought it was fitting for a sage moment.
Yeah, that's good. That's neat. I have another fun fact.
Okay.
I am also going international with this.
Oh,
So, you know how they like take naps over in the Mediterranean area? They do like siestas.
yes.
Do you know why they take naps in Athens?
No.
Because Dawn is really tough on Greece.
I didn't know where you were going with that. I was like, what could this be? I was like, I know it's a joke.
I know she doesn't really tell me fun facts anymore.
No, I was like, I know this is going to be a joke, but what is it going to be? And then I was like, what the siestas? Okay, we're going with this. I don't know. But that was a good one. That was a good one.
Thanks. Thanks.
But yeah.
That's it. We do want to hear all about your ghost stories, any adventures that you've had on ghost tours, any misadventures, calamities, stuff like that. Anywhere that you'd like us to cover next, and any ghost tours that you think that we need to go on. We want to know it all, and we can get those suggestions at hauntedorhoaxpod@gmail.com. And also be sure and follow us on Instagram, Haunted or Hoax Pod, Twitter at H or H Pod, and Facebook at Haunted or Hoax. And at the very least, please follow us on Facebook, because we post all of the pictures, all of the links, and also when episodes go live. So it's a really
Yes.
good place to kind of keep in the know.
Yes, definitely. And then don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. It's a huge help to get the word out, get us to new people to listen to the pod, grow our community. We've been getting a lot of good feedback. I'm so grateful that we've started this podcast and we've had such an amazing sort of feedback and following so far, and we want to keep that going. It's been so great. And make sure that you review, because we have something exciting going on with the reviews in 2022, and you're not going to want to miss it. So just make sure you go ahead and do that.
Yeah. And we will see you next time. Have a happy new year.
Yeah, we'll see you next year.
Oh, you had to.
I had to. You cannot. You can't not.
2022 won't be any different.
Nope. It's going to be the same old bullshit.
Well, best of luck to everyone. Stay safe, and we will see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.